Hello friends, Heidi here from Rain Country. God is good all the time. And I'm here for another craft time chat. And if you're new, all that means is no, I'm not trying to teach you how to do crafts. I'm just using this opportunity to shoot a video, just a chat video, while I'm trying to get some projects done. And right now I have a couple of custom apron orders I'm working on. So I wanted to get these done so I can ship them off to her tomorrow. And so that just, that way I can kill two birds with one stone. I can chat and I can work at the same time. So my topic today is you're never too old, meaning you're never too old to learn something new, a new skill, a new way of doing things, and so on. And this actually, I have 2 points that I want to make, 2 main points I want to make with this chat. And the first one I'm going to talk about may seem initially like it has nothing to do with the main topic. However, it was what got me in this direction. Now, originally I was going to make this about the right way to garden, quote unquote. But then I decided I wanted it to be more general than that, because it's more than just that where I want to go with it. And so how this got started, this idea, was I had put out a video on how I saved tomato seeds, and that's all it was meant to be, was just about how I do it, not what I think is the right way and what is best for everyone, because, well, I don't think it's going to be right for everyone, but I do believe there might be some people that could benefit from that idea. And so I want to clear up the fact that whenever I put out videos like that, especially anything that's related to gardening or anything where there can be many different styles and ways of doing things, we're going to have different things that we have to work with. Different challenges, whether it be physical challenges, whether it be climate challenges, whatever it is, depending on what it is that we're doing and, you know, who we are. And so it's, you know, this is something that people need to understand right off the bat. So anyway, the tomato seed video, there was someone that seemed to get a little bent out of shape, because even though I made it clear in the video that this was just my way of doing it, it was a way I discovered I came up with after trying all the other tried and true methods that other people did, and I come to find I liked it best and it worked best for me. And I did state at the end of the video as well that this may not work best for you. And the whole idea is I want people to have different ideas, whether they've been gardening for 100,000 years or they've just started 5 months ago. I want people to have various ideas in something new and different to think about, because maybe, just like with me, a lot of the tried and true methods that work best for other people in other parts of the country, such as slug control, for instance. So if what you're doing for you, the way you save tomato seeds, or the way you keep your slug population down, or what style of gardening you use, whether it be, you know, the Back to Eden style or the all the other many methods, you know, permaculture, so on and so forth. If you've tried the method and it works great for you, then stick with it. On the other hand, don't be offended because someone throws a new idea at you, even if your method works good. It doesn't mean, especially with someone like me, and I try to make this clear, that I'm ever trying to challenge anyone in the sense that you're doing it wrong, because I don't feel that way. I'm not like that. I think if it works for someone, they're doing it right, even if it's very different than my own way of doing things. And so I kind of think with this particular person, they could have just been a troll, but I don't think so. I think initially they just felt that maybe I was challenging their intelligence and their experience by simply putting a video out there, even though this person has never commented on any other video, and even though I don't know who they are. And it doesn't matter. That's not what I'm about. I'm just not that kind of person. And so I want to make sure, so part of the purpose of this video is I want to make sure people understand that. And anyone who's been watching me for any length of time knows that I usually try to throw several different ideas out, or at least just say this is how I do it. It doesn't mean it's right for you, but you may want to consider it, especially when it comes to gardening. If you live in an area like ours, you may find that the methods I use here might work better for you than someone who lives in Tennessee or Mississippi or Missouri. The way I garden is going to be actually very different than even a lot of people here in my own area. Why? Because one, I have limited space because I'm trying to do it all here, even though we have that new acre that we bought just up the road there. We are likely not going to use that for gardening, so still would like to keep most of our gardening right here, other than possibly putting in some fruit trees and some berries out there. So as such, we need to try to make the most of our space working in our tiny area, so certain ways we do things are going to be because we're trying to save space. And also certain ways we do things may be because the type of soil we have could be very different here than the person who lives across town. And also the way we do things are going to be dependent on our budget. We always try to find things free. I don't like having to buy fertilizers. The only fertilizer I might buy once every few years is a big bag of blood meal, mostly for my blueberries because they're in pots. And so I feel that they need a little extra, even though I pile on the grass clippings and chicken scrapings out of the coop. But mostly I try to go free. Anything I can get for free. Grass clippings, horse manure from up the road, leaves from the neighbors, things like that. And that may not be what other people want to do, especially if you're talking horse manure, because horse manure can bring with it all kinds of other seeds and stuff and introduce new weeds to your garden that you may not want. New plants, I'll just say plants, because some of them aren't all bad. But I would rather fight some of these weeds than have to go spend a lot of money on bags of fertilizer, of horse manure. And I don't do chemicals. So again, it's going to be entirely up to you and your needs and where you live. And my method, I can almost guarantee, is not going to work for a lot of other people because my climate is very different and my needs are very different. And my soil conditions are quite different than most. And then the other challenges such as the slugs. So that's also the challenges with slugs and certain other things is also going to determine the kind of produce I want to grow. I'm going to grow the things that are going to be a little more slug deterrent, or at least slugs aren't going to chew it clear down to the ground. Like I tried growing kohlrabi this year, which I did really like. However, major slug attractor. The slugs like that more than probably anything I've ever grown, and they just eat right through the middle of them. And I did get a few good ones because I wanted to at least try one, and I threw some Sluggo down because I was growing them in an area the chickens can't get to. And that helped at least for me to be able to try it. Though I liked it, to me it's not worth it to grow them because of the time of the year that they're growing is about the time that the slugs, I can't let the chickens in there to eat the slugs, and by that point the slugs are too big that the chickens don't want to eat them anyway. So I probably won't grow them again because of that very thing. I'm going to focus more on the things that are, like potatoes and corn and beans. The point is that when I put videos out, I just want to throw out ideas for people, especially people who live in our kind of climate, especially people who live in, who might live in town or have limited space to work with when it comes to gardening. Or, when it comes to fermenting or anything like that, a lot of times I'm just trying to give people new, fresh ideas. That does not mean that my idea is best and right for everyone. And it's just really important for me to make sure that people understand that, because I never mean to come across that way. No matter how it may appear, it's not how I mean to be. And I think anyone that's been following me for any length of time knows this about me. But on the other hand, that also doesn't mean that just because the way that's been working for you or for me for a very long time and you're happy with it, doesn't mean you can't consider looking into new ideas. It doesn't mean that you're too experienced or too old to learn something new. Because maybe you'll go, hey, you know what? I kind of like that better. Let me give it a try and see if it works. Maybe you give it a try and you're like, now I like my way better, and that's cool. Or maybe you give it a try and say, you know what? I like this better. It's a little easier, it's a little less messy, little more stress-free. As far as my videos go, take everything as they're meant. They're not meant to be that I think I'm smarter and better than everyone, because I don't. I know that there's plenty of people out there that I have plenty to learn from, and I have. I've had many of my subscribers come in and throw new ideas and information at me, and some things I either tried or looked it up and decided, no, I like the way I do things better, or I'm still gonna stick to the information I have. And some ideas I tried and was like, man, this is great. I wish I would have thought of this sooner. I'm always learning new stuff, and I'm certainly not above learning anything new. So maybe I haven't been gardening since I was 6 years old, but I am 53 years old, and I've been gardening since in various different ways since early on in our marriage. And there's always something new to learn. And on top of that, here's something else. You know, I keep coming back to the gardening analogy, but that's kind of one of the big ones, and it's the one that's still freshest in my mind because we're kind of coming out of that season. And then you're always thinking about next year and what you want to do next year. Maybe there's some new and different types of fruits and vegetables you want to try for a change, because you've been growing all the same stuff all the time because you know what works for you. But maybe you're a little too afraid to try certain things because you're afraid you don't know how to do it or it's not going to work for you. Well, even if you can't find somebody who has information on their YouTube or blogs about that particular thing, it still doesn't mean you can't just give it a try. Because you know what the best way to learn, and I say this a lot, the best way to learn anything, at least for me, is the best way, and that is by doing. And here's the thing, typically it's going to be a lot cheaper, even if you quote unquote fail at it, it's going to be a lot cheaper than taking college courses on it. And even through if it doesn't end up being a successful, like maybe you try growing watermelon and it just does absolutely nothing for you. Was that a complete failure? No, it wasn't, because now you learn something new. Now you learn that either A, watermelon doesn't grow here, or B, I need to find a better way to grow watermelon so it actually works for me. And now let's bring it to another issue. Some people like me, I have my tried and true pain remedies that I grow that they work great for me. Now somebody else may decide to try the feverfew and other things and say, you know what, it does nothing for me. It tastes terrible and it still does nothing for me. Then I recommend you look into other types of herbal remedies that are good for pain. There's all different kinds out there. There's white willow bark, and I've heard a lot of people ask me about wild lettuce, and no, I haven't used it, and I personally am not really interested in it. I do think it's possible it grows around here, but I've been so happy with the catnip and feverfew that I just haven't seen the need to try it. On the other hand, maybe I should try it. Maybe I should try it for the sake of Patrick, who, the feverfew doesn't, though it does help him, it doesn't work for him as well as it does for me. And so it'd be a good idea for me to try gathering some somewhere or even growing it just so I can try it for his sake and see if it works better for him. And another thing could be something like food storage or food preservation. Maybe you've been canning something for years and you think you like that better, but then somebody shows you, well, you know what, I like to dehydrate this. I found I really like to dehydrate this particular thing better than I like canning it. And so you might say, well, I like canning it and I don't want to change. That's fine. On the other hand, why not give it a try just to see if maybe this will work better for you. Maybe you'll like it better because it takes up less space in the cupboards, in your food pantry. For me, there's things I prefer to can, things that I prefer to dehydrate, and things I prefer to freeze. And sometimes I'll do all three with the same vegetable or fruit. And so it just really depends. And because I'll use them in different ways. And so that's why, and I'm always coming up with new ideas to preserve. And some things I've started doing doing it one way plus another way, and some things I've completely switched and decided, no, I'm not going to can this anymore. I'm going to go to dehydrating. So the thing is, we shouldn't be so hard stuck in our old ways because maybe we're too afraid to admit that maybe there's a better way or an easier way, or maybe we might even like it better. We should be willing to at least try. And even if the way that you're doing you've been happy with and works really good for you, it still doesn't mean you don't have something new to learn. It still doesn't mean that there might actually be a way that's better or might work better for you. And if you try it and it doesn't, really, there was no harm done. You just learned something new. And that's how I try to see everything, is that as long as you're trying, and I have to battle with this too, because sometimes certain people, the way they comment, I have to try to read into it what I think they mean, and that is they're not trying to come in and tell me the right way to do it. They're just trying to come in and give me some more suggestions, just like I do with them. And so that doesn't mean they think they're better or smarter than me. They just have a different way that maybe I might want to try and like. And when I look at it that way and I try that and I think, you know what, thanks for that information. And even if I try it, or even if I know right off the bat, such as a lot of the natural slug remedies, even if I know right off the bat, this isn't going to work here, I know this, it doesn't mean that somebody else coming in and reading that comment can't learn something new out of it. And I can be grateful that someone was trying to be helpful by presenting an idea that works well for them. And that's pretty darn cool. So we have to be careful, and notice I'm saying we. We have to be careful that we don't get so prideful and so stuck in our ways that we take everything as you're doing it wrong, when that's not necessarily what the person was saying. It could simply be, hey, here's a fresh new idea you might want to try. Maybe it's an old-fashioned way, maybe it's a new-fashioned way. It doesn't mean that we're beyond learning and trying something new. And on top of that, let's say get to be my age, you're in your 50s and you either have grandchildren or you're going to be having grandchildren someday, and you're hoping to be able to teach them and work with them and their situation, as you're teaching them maybe some different, cooking and baking skills or how to garden or whatever it is, maybe they're going to come up being able to present them with other ideas besides just what you do. That way they could learn to have some of their own ingenuity and learn to be more creative rather than getting themselves just stuck in a box as this is the only way to do something, and say, hey, here's what I do. This is how I do it, and this is why I prefer this way over that way, but somebody else will do it this way because of this particular need, and thus that works better for them to do it that way. I think this is really important. So again, it comes back to the fact that each one of us is unique, whether it be it's our own unique structure as a person, or our personality style, our physical being, what kind of health issues maybe we're dealing with, whether or not we're disabled or we have all of our parts working well, the kind of climate we live in and the kind of challenges we face on a daily basis. These are all going to be big factors in how or why we do things the way we do. Another example for me, because, well, it's me, so I'm going to know best about myself and the examples I have to give, is that I work several different jobs. Yes, I do them all from home, but one of the jobs I'm doing, I'm actually doing 2 jobs at the same time. And these are 2 ways that I earn an income. One is YouTube, and the other is my Etsy store. I have several different jobs that I do. And so my time and the way I time manage things is going to be very different than someone who works a job outside the home. On top of constantly trying to work on the garden and learn new things and hopefully someday maybe find time to write a book or 2 or 3. And so that's going to make what I do and my needs very different than somebody else's. So for me to come up with ways that I think are quicker and easier for saving tomato seeds or putting in a garden, You know, that's really important, as long as it works. Obviously, if it doesn't work, then it's a waste of time, but it's not a waste of time to at least try it once to see if it's going to work. So that's one of the main points I'm trying to make, is don't be afraid to try something new, even if what you're doing already works for you. Unless you know for certain that, nope, I really like the ease of the way I've got it, I've got this figured out, give me another idea for something else, and just move on from there, and don't get offended because somebody's idea is different from yours. It does not mean that what you do is wrong. It does not mean that someone like me, just because I have a YouTube channel, thinks I know it all, because I absolutely do not. In fact, in the over 3 years that I've had this YouTube channel, I have learned so much more while I've been doing the videos, not just from my own experiences, because I'm always experimenting and trying something new, but also from the many kind people that have come in and shared their ideas with me. You know, for example, there was somebody a while back that said, you know, what I like to do when I'm mixing several different powdered ingredients is put it in a much bigger jar and then just shake it up. And I'm like, wow, that's a great idea. And now I use that for all kinds of different things, such as making my seasoned salt blend, or making my tooth powder blend, or my foot powder blend, or my mixed spice blend, and so on and so forth. That is so much easier than using a whisk or a big fork to stir this stuff up. But just put it in a big jar and shake it. And I was so grateful for that idea, because it has saved me so much time and made my life so much easier when it comes to doing that stuff. And boy, I tell you, I really appreciate those things. And even if your idea isn't something that would work for me, I still appreciate the fact that you put it out there. And again, there's somebody else, you know, keep doing that, because there's going to be somebody else that, even if it's not going to work for me, somebody else can come in and read that comment and go, hey, I like that idea, I'm going to try that. And we can all learn and glean new things from each other, no matter if we're 18, 58, or 108. No matter if we've been doing things for 6 months, 10 years, or 50 years. It doesn't matter. We should never stop trying to learn something new, you know, in whatever area. Because here's the other thing. When we're constantly trying to grow and change and better ourselves, or make our lives easier in different ways, we're also working our brain and keeping it alive and active, and that's going to stave off things like Alzheimer's and so on. So just like with your body, you want to keep your body active in order to help stave off different illnesses. Yes, we're all going to die, but you know, we want to die as healthy as we can and not spend the last of our years, you know, bedridden the whole time. We want to be as healthy as we can for as long as we can. So we need to exercise our brains just as much as our bodies in order to stay as healthy as we possibly can as long as we live. Okay, well, I hope I got all my points out and said everything I meant to say. And I also hope that you found this video encouraging and that you learned something new from it. Thanks for watching. Take care, and God bless.